Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this early edition, the 9 o'clock news. Yes, because at 10 o'clock we have the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal. So make sure you tune in at that time as well. Well, it's wonderful to have your company on this 17th day of June. The temperature outside is 19 degrees and it's quite comfortable, and it's a sunny weather outside as well. Well, right now let's take a look at what's making news. Of course, we know that now there are some restrictions after that case in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, around Bondi, and of course anyone coming from there now has a special category, and of course Queensland is getting on the safer side. So please make sure that you follow those rules and observe those rules as we move forward. And of course those restrictions will be in place, and as updates come along, we will let you know. Well, right now, moving on with the news for today. Wonderful news. The Farmer of the Year has been rewarded.
At the tip of Western Australia's Dampier Peninsula, red dirt meets the pristine waters of the Kimberley coast.
Yeah, over there.
It's where third-generation pearl farmer James Brown proudly calls home.
Can we go walk up?
Over the 40-odd years, I think I've spent 3/4 of my life here, and I can't imagine I'll be anywhere else. It's probably the place and the opportunity to work on the water and, in an environment that I love and in a community that I love more than anything. But pearling and all the various bits of pearling, I mean, it's captivating in its own right and keeps you coming back again and again and again.
With a strong family farming legacy before him, James Brown is trying to take pearling into the next era. And after surviving the highs and the lows of the industry, it's his innovation and resilience that's seen him named Australian Farmer of the Year.
At the time when so many pearl farmers were going broke, we actually saw James take on that challenge and grow his business, and I think to widen his focus on what his business can and should and could do, and take that business to the next level. And I think whatever you farm, whether you're a land-based farmer or a water-based farmer, that's the sort of outcome that farmers are looking for in their businesses. With a nod to the history of his business, but also a really strong eye to the future, he really does embody everything that the judges were looking for.
I often say it is, pearling is never a single person's kind of achievement. One person can't run a pearl farm. There's 50 people running around. They all do something critical. Every single pearl probably, or every single oyster, is touched by dozens of people along the many years it takes to produce that end crop. And so it's really a reflection of their efforts in this beautiful combination of the environment it's produced in.
James Brown still believes the pearling industry offers an exciting future for his family and generations to come.
It's been a long path, pretty brutal, but I think that old saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that the tough road we've walked is going to lead to a better business model, is going to lead to a better industry, is going to lead to just better outcomes for the community. So to be able to do that in my career is actually a privilege. So we're very lucky.
Congratulations and well done. And of course, as you mentioned, that when you love what you're doing, and of course the combination of where it is and what it's doing, the whole lot combines in as a total package. So that makes it a very worthwhile cause and a very rewarding career as well. And being named the Farmer of the Year, quite deserving. It's good to see the young people coming forward and doing that. Well, talking about farming, the one thing that we have been talking about in this show quite a lot, and we have discussed that in many forums as well, is the farming visa. Well, the farming visa is here, but it's not in the total form right at this point in time. what was proposed was that Australia should attract people to come from overseas on a farming visa, come and work on the farms, and under special provisions, similar provisions as workers go to Switzerland and other places, where they get the equal pay, they get the equal taxes and other things, but they don't have access to the health and the schools and the other things like that. So that is only that's the difference, because that is what is for the residents and citizens. So something worthwhile, something to think about, food for thought. But at least this is a move in the right direction, and like me, the farmers are welcoming that.
Out in Orange, it's usually rich pickings. Only if farmers can guarantee the pickers.
In 35 years that I've been growing apples and cherries, I have never ever been concerned about the harvest time.
But like so many producers this year, Guy Gaeta is worried he won't find enough workers to get the fruit off the trees. And for the first time, he's contemplating the unthinkable.
When you can't pick it, like I said, I hope I don't see it.
The Nationals say they have a solution.
A very good day, and a good day to be a National Party member.
A new visa to bring more workers to Aussie farms.
We made a commitment to create an agricultural visa, and we've delivered.
The visa would allow citizens from countries including Indonesia, the Philippines and Singapore to work in Australia for up to 3 years.
We are expecting, as part of the agreement with the Prime Minister, to have that up and going by the end of the year.
The visa's been brokered alongside the UK Free Trade Agreement, which scraps the requirement that British backpackers work on farms to extend their stay in Australia.
It will make it easier for British people, for young people to go and work in Australia.
That'll remove about 10,000 workers from a sector that says it's already 26,000 short. The Nationals have seized the opportunity to get something they've long pushed for. The junior coalition partner telling the Prime Minister it wouldn't support the free trade deal unless he supported the visa. The party's celebrating, but the details are sketchy, and there are fears that some Liberals who've long resisted the visa could scuttle it.
I'll believe it when I see it. This has been a promise to us and to agriculture for some time now.
The scepticism's understandable after years of mixed messages.
They've been flip-flopping more than a barramundi on a boat ramp.
Producers just want a solution.
That's the honest thing. We want our produce picked
to ensure their fruit doesn't stay on the vine. Kath Sullivan, ABC News.
And of course, that is something which I have been saying for a long time. We have had many, forums with the ministers and most of the forums, and I had in one of the ones detailed that how this could work, and that we have so much to provide agriculture-wise. As I mentioned before, we have got boundless plains to say, but what are we doing with those plains? So we need workers. So this is wonderful if this completely goes off, and I think well done, Nationals, for putting this forward. And I think it is in its early stages. We'll be keeping an eye on making sure how it goes. But it is what I've said before. I'm really very, very happy that this is actually happening. Right, next news. There are still clubs and where people are operating on an exclusive basis, meaning they exclude gender and sometimes, of course, the class of people. And an Australian club member quit after they voted that no women would be members.
Behind this nondescript door on Sydney's historic Macquarie Street is an exclusive haven for the rich and powerful. The Australia Club boasts a tradition of hosting the nation's ruling elite. Former Prime Ministers John Howard and Malcolm Turnbull rub shoulders with the nation's top bankers and legal practitioners. Founded in 1838, it has another long tradition. Women are banned.
I think at some point the Australia Club will have to allow women in, because if they don't, they're just going to face a demographic decline.
Prospective members must pay a large upfront fee and then an annual sum of about $2,500, but even that doesn't guarantee admission.
You have to be invited. There have to be a proposer and a seconder and a number of other members who are prepared to recommend you. And then there's a committee that vets the applicant.
After more than 2 years of discussion, a faction within the club brought on a vote to determine whether women should become members. The motion, titled "The Desirability or Otherwise of Women Being Entitled to Membership of the Club," required a 75% vote to pass, but after a record turnout by members yesterday, it was voted down overwhelmingly.
Times have moved on, but the membership of this club is still stuck in a period 30 or 40 years ago and can't seem to get itself out of it.
The result prompted long-time member Jeff Cousins to quit the club after more than 20 years.
I'm a person who believes that if you see something that's wrong, you should act. It's no good just sitting in the club or the golf club or something saying, I think this is wrong, I really do, all my beliefs tell me it's wrong, but then you don't do anything about it.
I wasn't expecting to be as upset by it as I was, but it just reminded me how archaic it is that they're not allowing women and the impact it has on women, but especially young women.
And we will continue to deserve that trust.
Daisy Turnbull comes from a long line of Australia Club members, including her father, who voted yesterday.
I don't have an issue with tradition, and I don't actually have an issue with clubs in general. What I have an issue is that there is so much power tied up in that organisation, and they've made an active and very clear choice to exclude women from that power.
There are about 30...
Well, there have been lots of talks about Tedesal clubs and the others and some of the exclusive Esquire type of clubs that have been operating in the olden days. And, of course, as times have moved on, so should they. And rules and regulations can be amended, and they should be amended in line with what's happening today and what is what was not acceptable in the olden days is acceptable today. Maybe this is the change, the thought change, and that's the evolution of how people have evolved, how society has evolved and changed. So I think time to move on. Well, right now there are lots of talks about workplace burnouts. So is there help for people who get burnout at work? Of course, this should not only apply to workers, burnout could be for business owners as well.
So I just started my shift. It would have been around 11 o'clock at night. A person that had called through was really struggling with thoughts of ending their life and was out and about, and it seemed pretty high risk.
Daniel Fabris had more than 13 years' experience as a telephone counsellor, but the call that night shook him.
Then I heard the phone hit something like it had fallen, and then I heard loud guttural screaming. My thoughts in that moment were that this person had ended their life.
The caller survived, but Daniel Fabris struggled to keep working.
There were nights I couldn't sleep, there were nights I had nightmares. I was thinking about ending my life, and that's something I'd worked to help people not to for 13 years.
Daniel Fabris was working for an organisation called On The Line. The not-for-profit received more than $17 million in government funding last financial year. On The Line counsellors answer some of the calls to 26 of Australia's most well-known telephone crisis lines, including 1800-RESPECT, Suicide Callback Service and Men's Line.
Sometimes you just need to talk to someone who understands what you're going through.
Who won't judge or take sides, who will listen to what it is you have to say.
And offer advice.
Counsellors at On The Line can answer calls to more than a dozen different lines in a shift. Professor Ian Hickey says crisis helplines are increasingly being subcontracted to third-party providers.
COVID's created tremendous pressure on the mental health system. We were already struggling before the COVID crisis. Now there's a huge increase in demand for services. So the difficulty here is the demand goes up, and we don't really have the capacity to respond, that the quality goes down. And when people are being paid for the activity, not for the outcome or the quality, you can see the danger.
And he quite rightly put forward, when people are being paid for the activity and not the result. And that is many times when people go and they are being rewarded or paid for the activity, turning up for work or putting in the hours, but not on the outcome. So that is one of the problems that exist there, especially with those not-for-profits who are funded and they get federal funding to just do the job, and not on outcome. When we look at the other part of the equation, there are many times, there are many organizations we are working towards helping or assisting people in crisis, be it the fire, be it COVID, and other things. There are many fundraisers that are being organized in names of, crises here, there, and of course, at the moment there's lots happening in India as well. How many of these organizations are credible? Who are behind them? Who's running them? Are their accounts audited? And all these kind of questions do come into play. But many times people just look at, okay, it's a very good cause, let's go and support it. Supporting is okay, it's good, but as long as it's a credible organization and the funds that are being collected are audited, reported, and they are by a credible source. At the moment, there have been millions of dollars which have been paid into fraudulent claims for the bushfires and of course COVID. Here's that report.
It's a catastrophe which has come to New South Wales, and we're stepping up to make sure we provide that support.
We've made a number of decisions to do whatever it takes, to do whatever it costs, to meet those needs, to build our resilience for the future. This is about collaboration. This is about getting results for the people that have been impacted by this directly and indirectly.
18 months after the Black Summer bushfires, cafe and gallery owner Marco Carrigan is still waiting. Resident of Dargan, on the edge of the New South Wales Blue Mountains, Mark applied for state grant funding to fireproof his property and get some financial support after the Black Summer and then COVID battered his business.
The funding was to cover finishing the glazing here, putting what they call flame zone shutters around the outside of the concrete deck up above us here, which would come down deck level here. Just a few backup services so as a place can be really used as a refuge for 50, 100 people easily. I'm still waiting to hear back.
Earlier this year, he applied for a $700,000 grant from the $250 million Bushfire Local Economic Recovery Fund.
I'm sort of half waiting and hoping that some of this money will come through. I mean, after 6 months, I am sort of that close to going broke anyway.
After missing out on other bushfire grants, he's pinning his hopes on being one of the successful recipients announced this month.
The email I got back in April said they had applications amounting to $1.6 billion, but there's only $250 million, so it's 6 times oversubscribed.
Delays in getting funds to those in need aren't the only problem with schemes like this one. How funds are awarded has also come under scrutiny. The majority of projects approved in the first round were in state Liberal or National Party seats, while the bushfire-affected Green seat of Ballina, the Labor-held Gosford and Blue Mountains electorates initially received no money from the scheme.
When you look at the list of local government areas that were impacted and those electorates that are tied to it, and off the RFS data, 90% of buildings damaged were destroyed in coalition seats. So I can't hide from that.
We're here to announce a new grant of $10,000 to businesses that have been impacted by the fires.
Other bushfire grants in New South Wales, jointly funded with the federal government, are now under a cloud. 730 can reveal two funds for small businesses affected by the bushfires, worth more than $230 million, have been plagued by allegations of fraud.
The New South Wales Government and the federal government are re-announcing the package to support small businesses that have been impacted by the fires.
The New South Wales Government rolled out a series of $10,000 and $50,000 grants to provide emergency support to small businesses. The agency in charge is Service New South Wales.
This is one of a series of grant schemes that were designed to help people after the bushfires, so as they would have some money in their pockets, and particularly for small businesses to keep them afloat after the economic impact of the bushfires.
Thousands of applications were lodged, but unknown to Service New South Wales at the time, some were later found to be fraudulent.
But it turns out the money went from small businesses to pretty much anyone who asked.
Internal documents show a private contractor was brought in to advise Service New South Wales. The contractor found the agency had a limited and potentially non-existent ability to track fraud across a range of grant programs. The documents show the estimated size of the fraud was at least $17 million, with almost 1,700 fraudulent applications lodged as of October 2020. The system was so weak, one applicant lodged more than 200 applications worth more than $2 million and was paid $1 million.
They realised they didn't have the capacity in-house, so they brought in external consultants to try and understand the scale of the fraud. And once they came in, it was apparent that the scale of the fraud was vastly bigger than anyone would have feared.
Despite multiple assurances from Service New South Wales that a data matching system would be built to detect further fraud, an internal document shows the system has never been built and funding was not approved.
So there you go. The funding was never approved for that system to be built, and of course so many people contributed towards bushfire funds and raised money and everything, and the funds have been distributed to fraudulent applicants. So that is just such a terrible news. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's go and look at some of the news from overseas.
Je sais combien vous êtes aux avant-postes des tensions qui peuvent exister dans la région, des menaces, parfois des intimidations, et je veux ici redire combien nous nous tenons à vos côtés. Outre les exercices militaires et les escales de navires, encore récemment celle aussi d'un sous-marin, l'Émeraude, nous avons poursuivi également la mise en œuvre du programme de 12 futurs sous-marins qui représentent un pilier de notre partenariat et de la relation de confiance entre nos deux pays.
So another collaboration there, and I think our Prime Minister has done very well with getting all the deals done, and the collaborations and bilateral agreements together, I think is well done.
GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
Taking a look at some of the functions and events taking place in Brisbane.
Councillor Angela Owen, and it's with great pleasure once again that I throw my support behind India Day Fair to be held this year on the 15th of August at Suncorp Piazza at South Bank in Brisbane. This is for many years, and it is wonderful to know that it is continuing and growing from strength to strength.
Thank you very much, Councillor Angela, for your support for India Day Fair organised by Gopia Queensland. Yes, and it is on the 15th of August on the actual Independence Day, and this year it is at the South Bank Piazza, which is undercover and lots of seating, a wonderful venue for the occasion, and COVID approved venue, and that is the reason for going there. And we also have a dedicated professional event manager looking after the event this year, Lisa Miller, and who will be actually looking at the day-to-day running of the event, because there's such a lot that needs to be done in a short span of time that's left in the lead up to it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for in this segment. Don't forget that at 10 o'clock we are back with the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal of Oz India Travels, and looking at what we can do in these circumstances and what are the options open for us. So, see you then. Until then, be good and remain safe.